What's going on, guys? Today we have a computer update video on Project Spectra. You guys might remember this build if you've been with the channel for a year and a half. It was, I think, in March 2020 when I built this system, back before the graphic card famine and all the computer parts went through the roof. But I never really went in depth about their performance or anything I've done with it, what I use it for. I never even showed the interior very well in the first video, so this is just kind of like a update to the system, an update video about the system, to, I guess, make the first video more complete. So we're going to go through, I'm going to kind of list off what's in this computer, what all the parts are. I'm going to show you what I've done as far as overclocking and talk a little bit about how I use it on a daily basis, and we'll get right to it. Alright guys, so for the purposes of this video, to get a clear look of the inside, I've taken the glass panel off. She's a little on the dusty side. I need some compressed air action going on a little bit, but it's not horrible. But I'm just going to rattle off the list of components here so anybody watching will know. Also, for some reason, the color matching of the camera, it's not too accurate really. This is like an aqua blue with purple, and on camera it looks more like white with pink. But anyways, you'll have that. So for the processor, which is right behind this all-in-one pump right here, we have a Core i9 9900K from Intel, of course, and it's been a really great processor, and I'll talk a little bit about the overclock that I've done to it and show it on the BIOS when we get a little farther into the video here. So that was the processor. The graphics card is a MSI Ventus GeForce RTX 2070 Super, and it's been awesome as well. I haven't had any problems. It doesn't have any heating problems, any overheating problems. It's got two fans in it for cooling, lots of heat pipes, heat spreaders, and it was pretty beefy, so I got this up here system, as you can see right there, to stabilize it. And I kind of did this part myself, but the up here system, it came with enough of this machined pipe here that I didn't end up needing the entire length of it. So I used that part to help hold this up, because not only was this sagging like this way, it was also sagging that way, like off of the card a little bit, like not unplugging itself or anything crazy. But with these big cards like this, and they have much bigger cards than this, you kind of need something or it starts to look wonky. But these are Corsair Vengeance Rgb Pro. They are 8 gigabytes each, so 32 gigabytes total, speed of 3200 megahertz. So not the fastest. I could have went with 3600. That would have been pretty snappy, but these have done above and beyond a good job. But they are RGB, so they have all kinds of effects, and this whole system, the RGB, is ran by two RGB software apps, and it's MSI's Mystic Light for this little annoying patch of LEDs behind the motherboard. The reason I say annoying is because I couldn't address them with Corsair's IQ software, which is all of the other lights in the case, the fans on top, back, front, the ram sticks, and the pump on the all-in-one liquid cooler was all addressable through Corsair's IQ software, except for MSI's little Mystic light strip in the back right here. So that was the only thing I needed a special piece of software to address. So that's what you kind of get into sometimes with these builds. If you're doing like RGB throughout the entire build and you want to be able to address each and every fan separately, you know, and each part separately, and you want it completely customizable, it's a little difficult sometimes, because especially if you get like different branded parts, you're going to have different chunks of software that run each part, you know, that are governing the LEDs for that part. So, but for the motherboard, we went with an MSI MPG Z390 Gaming Edge AC. That's kind of a two-page name there, but it's been a really solid board, built to last, very hefty built. Everything was super high quality. It had steel reinforced PCIe slots, and it has M.2 that I haven't put in yet. But it's got plenty of expansion left in this system for days and days. Like, I could put probably 6 or more hard drives in this thing on top of what's already in it, plus some M.2 slots. We have 2 M.2, one there and one up here, and just tons of upgrade ability to this thing. But the AIO that we went with here, it's the H100i Rgb, and you're kind of gonna question my little setup here for it. It looks a little bit weird. It's the only thing I wasn't 100% happy with the build. I was gonna mount this up here where those dusty intake fans are, but they wouldn't fit because of that heat sink right there, that heat spreader on the motherboard, this guy right here. It wouldn't allow for the fans plus the radiator. You can imagine it would be about that much thicker. It would be sticking down like that, and it would also bump the RAM sticks. So I had to mount it in this configuration. I could have mounted it a little higher, and it might have been a little better, but they say don't make your pump the highest point, because the air bubbles will get trapped in your pump and it will burn the pump out. And in this model, the pump is in the heatsink part up here. Some models now have the pump like within the radiator itself. So just as long as you're keeping the pump from being the very highest point, you're probably going to be okay. But this isn't the best configuration for the long run. You kind of always want your tubes here to be going downward to the heatsink and the pump. So my argument here is, if I have one, is that these tubes go up higher by at least 2 or 3 inches than the pump is. So if there's any little air bubbles, they'll set like right here as the liquid kind of comes back down and circulates. So I don't think it's very likely in the current configuration that the air bubbles would travel into the pump, because they would have to overcome all this, you know, gravity here to sink themselves. I just don't think it's very likely. So let's see what other parts. I've got a RM850 whited out edition 80 plus gold certified power supply down here that you can't really see. You can just kind of see a little bit of the writing through there. And the case, I'm not really sure what the name of the case is. I'll put it up on the screen. I don't have it up here on the screen, my little cheat sheet. But that's mainly all of the parts that are in it. There's a 4 terabyte Western Digital, I think it was an Iron Wolf for the main hard drive, and I've got a SSD, a 120 gigabyte SSD for Windows, and I also upgraded with a Samsung 1 terabyte SSD for additional storage for video editing. So that was one of the upgrades I've done to this system, is I put another 1 terabyte storage solution in here, and I'm going to be occupying some of those M.2 slots pretty soon, because a system like this that's, you know, gonna last me a couple years, maybe more, you know, it's nice to be able to have the extra storage as things add up. But my next build is definitely going to be AMD based, because they've just kind of been smoking Intel lately with their more reasonable pricing that's available, and also they're kind of outrunning them in performance as well. But this system has been great so far. It's still kicking, still doing fine. So we're going to cut to a segment here, and I'm going to show you the BIOS and how I have everything set up, and kind of get in a little bit of detail with some of the overclocking and things I've done. Alright guys, as you can see here, what used to be like 3.6 or 3.7 gigahertz, I've overclocked to 5 gigahertz. And the RAM speed is still the same. I've never messed with that. I've never had a reason to. But the overclock was very simple, no problems, and it's been burning fast ever since. Right here is some of the details. The motherboard there. It shows the CPU. It was 3.6 gigahertz originally. So 3.6 to 5, that's a pretty huge jump. A feature I like in this MSI BIOS here is the Board Explorer, and it allows you to address all the separate little ports, and it allows you to address what is currently in each occupied spot. So we mouse over there, and it says we've got the i9 9900K in there. We have our DDR4 RAM. All of those. It shows these. So we have our Samsung 870 EVO 1 terabyte, that's the new one I added. There's the SSD, the 120 that has Windows on it. And then there's the 4 terabyte hard drive. And here is our NVIDIA GeForce RTX 2070 Super. And this shows the system fans. It's just a neat little feature to put into the BIOS, I thought. So here we are running Cinebench R15. And we're going to see what we score. It's just a rendering kind of test here to see what the score is. So you can see the result is 206.25 versus what we had before, 203.79. And let's see here. Yeah, both of these were after the overclock, I believe. So we're going to try a different test. So that was 20. This one was 203.79. Okay, so this orange one is where we're at. So we're going to try this test here on the CPU. And see what we score. And we scored a 1936. So not too bad at all. So that is a couple of benchmark tests for you guys, for those of you that are interested. So basically, all I've done is I've overclocked the CPU, and I've added a hard drive, an SSD, the 1 terabyte Evo from Samsung. And probably a couple upgrades that I would do soon would be the M.2 slots. As far as the graphics card, I'm not that worried about it. It's still getting well over 70-80 frames per second on playing any games I play on 1080. I don't do a whole lot of 4K gaming, although this system is capable of it. And it's also capable of ray tracing. It's another one of those things that I have not used, but maybe like once or twice since I've owned this system. It's just something that's not widely spread yet in the gaming community. But my main purpose of this system was gaming and recording myself gaming and video editing and that kind of thing. So for what I designed it for, it does a perfect job at. I've never had any problems with it at all, and I'm super happy with it. And I guess my message for this video would be, even though that the prices are crazy on some of this stuff, you can still build computers. You can still get out there and do it. There's still good deals to be found, and you can build a system and not even put a graphics card in it. There's integrated graphics in some of these CPUs nowadays that can do a pretty decent job until you can find a graphics card down the road somewhere. But for those of you that might be intimidated or kind of like, well, you know, I don't really want to do that. It seems like a lot. You know, I've talked to a lot of people and they're intimidated by building computers, mainly because, you know, they don't really know a whole lot about it, and they kind of feel like that if they break something that it's all going to be over and it's going to be all that money gone. But there are these boxes that NZXT are putting together, and they have all the parts and they ship them out to you, and the whole thing is under their warranty. And you get to choose like the packages you buy, what kind of level, like there's a bottom tier, mid tier, high tier, and they send it to you, and it has an awesome like little guide. And I'm not sponsored at all. I just saw it and I was like, that's a great idea if anybody's getting into this hobby or interested in getting into this hobby, but they're a little bit intimidated by all the parts and putting it all together. It makes it super easy. A solution like that, there's other companies that do similar things, and you can always go for a pre-built one, and there's some pretty decent pre-built machines out there, but you got to be careful because almost all of them cut corners in some way, and it's usually the power supply, and that can be a little bit shady as far as safety goes and that kind of thing. So just do your homework if you're wanting to get into this hobby. Just you know, do your research, and it's not as hard and it's not as intimidating as some people would think. But yeah, guys, that's it for this one. If you liked the video or disliked it, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you'd like to see on the channel. I'm interested in, kind of forming the channel around what people would like to see more. And I've enjoyed talking about my latest PC project. I'm pretty proud of how it turned out. It's always awesome to build something with your hands, put something together, and it's just the plan works out and it all comes together awesome. It's awesome to tell the stories to other people about these things, and it's just a fun hobby. But hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time.